Hello, and welcome to the IslesNation game recap of the Islanders' 2-1 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Barclays Center tonight. I'm joined by Bryan Curran, also known as Lawrence Van Poncock, and Josh Linton. How are you guys doing today?
Not too bad, Pete. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. LVP, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Couldn't be better.
So yeah, let's get right into it. Islanders 2-1 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are 3 points behind the Islanders going into tonight. Now they're 5 points back, and the Islanders, I believe, have a game in hand. The Islanders kept pace with the Rangers to beat the Buffalo Sabres because obviously they have to verse the Buffalo Sabres on the second half of a back-to-back because they're the Rangers and they get every break the schedule provides. So, yeah, the Islanders came out strong, in my opinion. Played a great first half of the first period. Got a power play goal from John Tavares, took a 1-0 lead, and then before the end of the period, Chris Letang tied the game. There was no scoring in the second period, and what my opinion was a very dull period. Not much going on. And then in the third period, Anders Lee really made himself felt in front of the net. He took a penalty himself, what some would consider a chintzy call. And then he got into it with Chris Letang, who lost positioning on Lee. Lee parked himself in front of the net. A Nick Leddy point shot hit Lee and went in. And that was all the Islanders needed. Unfortunately, Yaroslav Halak had a great game in net. I believe he stopped 31 out of 32. But with less than 5 minutes remaining, it looked like he tore his groin apart. I don't want to speculate, but it did not look good. And Thomas Greiss had to come in and close the fort for the last 4 minutes. Not Thomas Hickey. Travis Hamonic saved the game with less than 10 seconds to go by blocking a shot on an empty net. So yeah, that's what happened. So now let's get to what you guys thought of the game itself. Overall impressions on the Isles play today. LVP, we'll start with you.
All right, well, I'm glad you said the second period was boring because that's the only period I didn't watch. It's kind of like when I used to read books for fucking reading in English. I would just read the first few chapters, last few chapters, and try to ace it. But, the first period was obviously a lot of energy. They were saying it all the whole broadcast, about how this is a playoff atmosphere, and it definitely was. It's good that they were able to get up, after a game against the Rangers. We know that's an issue sometimes. All the emotion in that. I think it's good that it was the Penguins. Helped with another rivalry. There were moments that were obviously scary. I think in the third when Halak went down with the injury, which, yeah, it did look like he shredded his groin. I mean, he went to just do that split across the crease and just stop. But Greiss comes in and they immediately take that penalty. And that was a great cold goalie penalty immediately. But, it was a gutsy effort. I mean, like you said, the save by Hamonic at the end. I mean, everybody was chipping in. There were actually a few other plays in the third where the puck was kind of trickling and Greiss was missing them. There was one, I think, where Hickey cleared it with his hand. It's a blue-collar win, and obviously, I'll take it.
Josh, what did you think of the Islanders' overall play here tonight?
Uh, well, I actually missed the first period and a half, so I did see half of the second, and it was very boring. I was falling asleep while watching the second period and was hoping that the third period wasn't going to be like that, and then it was going to go into overtime because the last thing I want to do is watch the Islanders not know if they're going to go out two forwards and one defenseman, or one forward, two defensemen against a team that could field or that could ice Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Phil Kessel on one line if they wanted to. But the third period was great. I tweeted out, and I might have said it in the group, that this is how they need to play, and they need to have more periods just like that. Higher energy, just keep moving the puck, playing tough. Like you said, Anders Lee just did a great job parking himself in front of the net and pissing Chris Letang off. And to me, it actually had more of an Islander Ranger feel than the actual Islander Ranger game on Sunday. And I loved watching it. It was a great game, and I'm just glad that we were able to hold off at the end. It was a little scary there. I know we were all shaken, and Travis Hamonic, who is going to be missed next year, especially when he does stuff like this, to come up big. And I don't know if anybody noticed, actually, when Halak got hurt, I was watching the replay on NHL Network. Halak Halak got hurt and he was laying down and he still made a save while he was injured. And I know I actually have the stats right here, or I did have the stats. And
If you
Halak,
don't, I think Kerry has them.
very true. But Halak faced 32 shots. He had a 969 save percentage. And Grice only faced 2 shots, but they were some big shots, especially on the penalty kill, coming in cold, like you said, and that's not something you ever want to see a goalie coming into that situation, especially against the power play that the Penguins can ice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want. We'll touch on the goalies in a little, but Josh put up Anders Lee, and so did I. And to me, this was really reassuring because Anders Lee in last year's playoffs was benched for both the Islanders elimination games in Game 6 and Game 7. He didn't score a goal in the playoffs, even though he was the team's second leading goal scorer last season. And the fact that he was arguably the most noticeable player on the ice tonight in a playoff type game, you guys think that might say something about Anders learning from the way he needs to play in these type of games? You think that'll bode well for him moving forward as the games get tougher and we head into the postseason?
I
mean,
personally think so. Go ahead, Bryan.
No, sorry. No, I was going to say, I mean, yeah, Anders Lee disappeared in the playoffs last year, but you have to remember he was still young. What is it? I'm trying to look at the stats right now, but he didn't even have a total of a full season under his belt, I don't think, at that point. I mean, and he's the type of guy where he's just, in my opinion, a more effective Molson. He's doing the same kind of goal scoring, he's getting in the same area, but he's got a better frame for it, he's got a better build, and he's got a little bit more bite to him. So that kind of game is going to come, especially with a young player. I mean, you have to develop and mature physically in order to be able to maintain yourself in that area and be able to consistently contribute.
I'm looking at Lee's stats last year. He did play 76 games, which is more or less a full season, give or take. He played 5 in Bridgeport. So he did play most of the season, but it was only his second season in the NHL. In 2012, 2013, he played 2 games, so we're not really going to count that. But, I mean, it's such a different schedule than when he was playing at Notre Dame. And it's just such a different style of hockey, and it is great to see him, getting in front of the net, getting that presence there, because I feel like that's something that we need, is having somebody who's going to take those shots while we move the puck around and things like that. And what he was doing with Chris Letang was great. That's something you're going to need to see in the playoffs, especially if we're facing a team like the Rangers, where we know it's going to get really chippy, or even a team like Washington, where we saw how physical it was last year. And I don't know if you guys caught it, but my favorite part was after Letang slashed him and slashed Lee, and Lee started skating away, he wooed right in Letang's face, and that just made me smile inside.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Islanders D, of course, played a great game in front of Yara Halak tonight and Thomas Grice. It all came together when Hamonic saved the goal in the final 10 seconds. But I think another defenseman that had a great game for the Islanders tonight was Nick Leddy, as he always does. I think Leddy might be one of the most underrated players in hockey because this guy is right now a top pairing defenseman. He could do it offensively, and when we acquired him from the Blackhawks, there was a lot of question marks about his defensive play. But his speed allows him to close the gaps really quickly and transition the puck out of the defensive zone to help set up the offense. So, yeah, those two guys. Moving forward, what did you guys think of their play tonight? And Johnny Boychuk, in my opinion, he hasn't been bad, but with the puck, his decision making and his actual puck skills leave something to be desired. So, right now, how would you rank those 3 in terms of importance down the stretch here?
Who's the third one?
Hamonic, Leddy, and Boychuk.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll just go here, Josh. Sorry.
No
the first thing with Leddy, and a thing I really love to see, and I think an adjustment to the power play helped him, is the beginning of this season he was struggling to. I mean, I forget how many games it was that they're going to get a goal, but it was obviously something that people were noticing. He's already surpassed his assist total from last year, but there's been an adjustment on the power play, and I can't remember when it happened. But if you remember early in the year when they weren't shooting as often, there was times when Leddy was on that first unit, and I think Nielsen was on the other point with him, and they were having the 2-point men up high, wingers, below the bottom of the circle, down toward the goal line guy in front of the net. Now, if you'll notice, Letty is pretty much, it's more of an umbrella. Letty's really the one guy back. They have the guy in front of the net, but the two wingers, strong side winger is playing the half board and distributing the puck, and the far side is going behind that and moving more. And this is giving Letty more room. The opposing team's defensemen on the kill are having to chase a bit more. And you'll notice when Letty's taking shots now, he's not even near the blue line. I mean, he's like 2 or 3 strides in. So I think it's given him a little bit more flexibility and kind of taking the weight off his shoulders. But, I mean, he has been great. Boychuk, offensively, has been contributing very well. In the own end, there's been some times where I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. He has like stone hands. His feet don't seem to be moving. He's getting beaten to pucks. But, if he's going to keep putting up the points, it's one of those give or take. I mean, his offensive upside is worth it. And Hamonic is something that's great. I mean, especially after that, the trade request leaked, he has been nothing but giving everything to this team. I don't see him dogging it ever. I mean, when he was, rolling around a little bit with Malkin early in the game tonight, you can just tell the guy really is truthful when he says he's in it for this team, which is exactly what we need from them right now. And I think they're coming together at the right time. I mean, the past 10 games have been phenomenal.
I agree. I think I'm actually looking at Letty's stats right now, and he in 14 less games, he has 6 less goals, but 3 more assists. So, and we know how many times Letty's taken a shot where he scored a goal, and then the next period it's no longer his goal. So he's doing everything that he needs to do. I don't care who's scoring as long as it's somebody. If John Tavares scores 100 goals a year and nobody else scores a goal the rest of the year, I'm fine, because that's we're winning games with just one person scoring. Obviously, you want to see everybody score, but if wherever the points are coming from, they're coming from, and as long as they're coming, that's all that matters. And yeah, I feel like I'm noticing Boychuk move the puck a lot more than I remember him last year doing it. And I don't know how I feel about that, especially when you got such a great skater and such a great puck mover paired with him in Letty. Why is he moving the puck so much? I like having him as a strong defenseman, and I feel like he needs to be focused on that and let Letty take control of the outlet passes and taking the puck into the zone, zone to zone. So I think Boychuk needs to kind of just let Letty take control, and just wait for that one timer, and wait, if he's going to do anything offensively, wait until he gets into the offensive zone, start worrying about his D game again, so he's not standing around flat-footed like Bryan was saying, and stone-footed. And as for a Hammer, we've been watching him for how long? He's grown up in the organization. We've been watching him for however many years. We've pretty much grown up with him, and there's really nothing he can't do. And like Bryan said, it's just ever since the trade rumors came out, he said that he was going to do whatever it took to, as long as he was on the Islanders, and he wasn't going to pull a Jonathan Drouin. And he has yet to do that, and he's putting everything into his game just like he does every other year, and that's really all that matters. And when it comes to playoff time, I think who's more valuable is really going to depend on who we're playing in each round, because they all have their strengths, and it's all going to, when Boychuk was so valuable last year when we were playing Washington because of what he could do around Ovechkin on the power play. So I think when you rate them, it really all matters about who we're playing in what round.
All right, and then we'll move obviously to probably the most important thing to come out of tonight, and that's our starting goalie getting injured late in the game. I mean, for a while now, Islander fans have been discussing Yaroslav Halak versus Thomas Greiss, who should be the starting goalie down the stretch and into the playoffs. And unfortunately, it looks like that decision might have been made for Jack Capuano today. Like I said earlier, I don't want to speculate, but the way he went down, and from seeing that type of injury in my hockey watching career, it looks like at least a few weeks. And I mean, there's only a few weeks left in the regular season, so who knows when or if we'll see Yaro again this year. So, you guys at all worried about the fact that now we have to rely on Thomas Greiss here, most likely for a while? And obviously, we kept JF Berube around, which looks genius right now because We have a decent third string goalie who will probably get into a few games on the stretch because the Islanders have quite a few back-to-backs to finish out the year. So, I mean, obviously, Jarl Halak hasn't had as good of a season as Thomas Greiss, but he's still considered this team's number one, and most people would expect him to start game one of the playoffs if healthy. So yeah, what's your overall feelings on the fact that Jarl went down today?
Um, well, it's obviously awful. I mean, he is our number one, and you guys know as we've talked before when we've chatted that I'm one of the ones that say, play the hot hand and play who's winning. And there are times when I would have started Greiss over Halak. But that being said, Halak is very important to this team. Now, am I worried about Greiss starting now? No, I'm not. I mean, looking at his numbers now, he started 29 games this year, and that's the most in his career to date for a season. I mean, his highest total of this was 25 of the Coyotes, and he's already surpassed his win total. I mean, he has done everything to earn not only this opportunity, but to earn the fans' trust. I mean, he really has not given us a reason to not believe that he can get the job done. My concern is if Halak's injury is long, would be the playoffs. I mean, in 2009, 2010, Bryce played one playoff game with the Sharks, and I don't even know if it was a full game, to be honest with you. But so playoffs, I don't know. It really depends on the length of Halak's injury. With a groin thing like that, it could be something like a tweak and he's out 3 days, or it could be out, 2 months. But I think if Greiss is playing well and he's still getting wins and he's still putting up the numbers that he has all year, I think it's better to give Halak all the time he needs, if not more, to make sure that he is healthy for the playoffs. But worried about Greiss, not at all. And Pete, you're right. I mean, the Berube decision to keep him around is looking genius right now. Obviously you can never predict this, but it was a smart move. It was a suave move. Who knows if this was all by plan, but, I got to give the management credit for it.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw it in the group, but part of the reason that that Berube is around is a contract thing where something, I don't remember what exactly it was, but something about being the difference between a UFA and an RFA, excuse me, during this offseason, which is actually part of the reason why he dressed on Sunday against the Rangers. But as for how I feel about Greiss, I'm still not sure yet. I think he's been great this year. Yeah, he's played better than Yarrow at times, and obviously the stats say he's having a better season. He has one of the best save percentages in the NHL, but he's never had to have the workload of being an NHL starting goalie, especially down the playoff stretch. We're most likely going to make the playoffs. Now it's just a matter of our seeding. And a guy that's never been an NHL starter, has been a career backup, who comes in every day with the mindset, I'm going to back up, I'm going to play a couple, maybe 4 or 5 games a month, maybe once a week, who is now going to be playing a few times a week. It's a very different mindset, and it's something that I'm interested to see if he can handle and if he's ready for. But if he's playing, the way that he's played all year, and he plays, 11 of the next 18 games, right? I believe that's how many we have left. And, Berube plays, 5 of them, and Yarrow plays 2 if he's able to, just so he can get back and ready for the playoffs. Then I'm not worried, but I'm really worried what I'm worried about is to see his mindset and how he handles the workload of being an everyday goalie as opposed to just coming in once every now and then to fill in for Halak.
You guys have any other points you'd like to make about the game at any point? Any small nooks and crannies you guys want to add?
I don't know. Like I said, this was a gritty win, and it's huge. Everything we've said so far pretty much covered on it. You just like to see that effort. But another thing we talked about in the group is that Halak got his 200th win tonight, and this was Cappy's 203rd or something. Bananas that stat is actually true. Bananas. I can't believe it.
For me, it's, as I mentioned in the opening of the podcast, that this game seemed more like an Islander Ranger game than the Islander Ranger game on Sunday. But yet again, another close game where it's coming down to the wire. Are we going to hold the lead? Are we going to go to overtime? And right now they seem really comfortable in those one goal late games, and they're scary to watch, but you feel real good at the end of the game when they pull it out.
Yeah, today's win was definitely satisfying. I mean, all year, I don't know, it's probably the fact that I expected this from this team this year, and I didn't think that we'd have to compete for a playoff spot. So maybe the early season games didn't mean as much and didn't get me riled up as much, didn't get me as excited. But basically, the last two games, when the final horn sounded, I haven't been this happy in a while about this team. Just overall satisfied with the way they've played these last two games. Definitely playoff games, and definitely encouraging that the Islanders didn't let the Rangers win sleep over into today's game. They came out strong and got the win. But I am worried, very worried, knowing this team, that they'll pull out an absolute stinker tomorrow. So, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but knowing my Islanders, I have a feeling we might beat the Penguins and the Rangers and lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I mean, that's kind of how things seem to go. And this is what I was saying earlier, like, worrying about coming off the emotion of a Ranger game. It was lucky to have the Penguins. Now we're off a Ranger game, day off, Penguin game, and then the Maple Leafs. I mean, obviously, it may come as a shock to you guys, but I'm not a professional hockey player, so I don't know what it's like, but it's got to be rough. I just have to hope that they realize what's on the line, especially at this point in the season, and keep it going. But, Pete, I agree with you. I know nothing but disappointment, just like you do. So, obviously, I'm kind of glass that's empty. But, let's just, one day at a time. For now, things are looking great.
I think everything from here on out needs to be taken one shift at a time, one period at a time, one game at a time. But I am a little worried, as I said earlier today in our group, that, yeah, it's the make-believes. I feel like a lot of times they look at a team low in the standings as competing for Austin Matthews as a gimme game. But Toronto's not a gimme game. It's a Mike Babcock coach team. No matter how bad the team is, it's still a Mike Babcock coach team. And all those kids are like Kapanen and Nylander and Smith, and all those kids have been called up recently, and all they want to do is impress Babcock. So they're not playing for the Marlies at the start of the next season, and they're actually playing for the Leafs when puck drops in October.
All right, and to help us preview the Leafs game tomorrow, you can listen to our other podcast from today where we interviewed a member of the Toronto blogger from the Leafs Nation, and she gave us some insight on the Leafs. But that'll do it for us here on this show. I'd like to thank you guys for listening. I'd like to thank Bryan and Josh for joining me and making their podcast debuts. Hope you guys had fun.
Absolutely, man. Thanks.
Any final words, guys?
Josh, we keep cutting each other off. It's like Lady and the Tramp here with the pasta. I'm liking it. No, you go first. You go.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say it was great to finally make my debut, and it was great to watch two huge wins over some big rivals that really get my blood boiling when we play them, and hopefully we can keep it up the rest of the way down the stretch.
I will add, ever since I hired Josh and Matt, the Islanders are 3-0, and I know Josh wants that fact to be known.
I do, and as well as the fact that ever since we traded for Shane Prince, we are also 3-0.
4-0.
4-0, yes.
Bryan, LVP, final thoughts. Wrap it
It
up.
was a great podcast. I'd like to also point out that Josh and I both got haircuts today. We're looking fresh as ever. Both of us are on camera right now. I know none of you can see this, but we look great. Honestly, scale of 1 to 10, 38. And ever since we got haircuts, we're 1-0. So I'm going to keep my stack going and get another big win tomorrow, boys.
Yeah, it's definitely the haircuts. It's definitely Josh joining us. But here at Isles Nation, we'll keep doing whatever it takes to secure this team victories, as long as you keep listening to us on the air here. So once again, thank you for listening, and let's go Islanders.